Hello, it's Ashton Lewis.
And I'm Daphne Lynn.
And you are listening to the
NDE World Podcast.
Welcome to the NDE World Podcast. I'm your host, Ashton Lewis. I have my lovely hostess, Miss Daphne Lynn, in the studio with me today. How are you doing today, Miss Daphne Lynn?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. How about yourself?
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you, and thank you for coming out and doing the episode with us today. You are the better half of the episodes. Can't do it without you. So we appreciate you coming out and sharing this with us and the listeners. So thank you.
I love doing it. I really do. It's such a pleasure to hear all these beautiful souls' experiences and just read and review, and just there's so much to this
world.
Yeah, there's just so much to this whole genre of NDEs. So, yeah.
I think that's what I was kind of referring to, that the world of all that, you know. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome. Those who are here for the first time, welcome. Those who are returning, welcome back. Thank you so much. And don't forget to go to the website. That's NDE.world for more information on who we are and what we do. Well, today we have a surprise for you guys today. We have such a wonderful soul that took the time out to be able to share some information with us. She's got a new book coming out, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. And she's an author, and she does all kind of cool stuff. So we're going to, I don't want to spoil it for you. We're going to wait and go into the actual interview here in just a moment and be able to share all that with you. But her name is actually Miss Wendy Rose Williams. And like I said, such a beautiful soul, so knowledgeable.
Oh, yes.
And she's had so many experiences and things like that. So I am so looking forward to sharing this with everybody.
Yeah, Miss Wendy is a regression therapist for past lives, deals with between lives as well, and future life progression. So, and she's the author of about to be 3 books.
Yes.
So she has a lot to share with us. So I'm so excited to hear her stories.
Me too, and I know the listeners are going to love it, and you guys are going to gain so much insight, so much. When we did the interview, I was just really sitting back and listening, not taking notes, and I mean, this woman is so beautiful, such a beautiful soul, so much knowledge, and I can't wait to share it with the listeners. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, always so full of energy too.
Yeah, I love it. It's contagious.
It's great.
I felt it through the phone. Yeah. So thank you, Miss Wendy, for your time and sharing your story with us on the actual episode, and thank you for allowing us to share this with others. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. What do you say, Daphne?
Let's do it.
Let's do it, and we are rolling. Well, I tell you what, before we get started, I would like to take the time and just to thank you so much, Wendy, for giving us your time out of your schedule. I know we all have different schedules and a lot going on, so it means a lot to us and the listeners. You know, and I want to thank you on behalf of NDE World Podcast, you know, just for taking the time to come out and share your time with us. And we will respect your time, and we do treasure your time with us. So I just want to let you know.
Well, likewise. Thank you for having me as your guest.
Yes, perfect. So I understand, before we get started here, you, now, Daphne we were talking about it earlier. It's like, where do we start? Because she's got so many things. So let me just kind of introduce you a little bit, and then maybe you can kind of like pick up from there if you don't mind a little bit. But you've got so many different specialties and things that you're into. Like hypnotherapist and certified spiritual teacher. That's awesome. And so the things that you're into is really, really spiritual type things, you know. So I guess just to kind of open up, you know, and everything you do here, like with the Reiki and everything, these are all spiritually things. So have you always been really tuned into your spirituality? And
no,
do you
it
think
came up in the craziest way.
Do you mind sharing that with us?
Sure, I'd
Okay.
be happy to. What happened was in 2010, I went on Match, and I was looking to meet a new wonderful partner. And through Match.com, I met a soulmate who had the soul contract to wake me up spiritually. And that just changed everything. And this is not one of the advertised benefits of online dating.
Wow.
Get your spiritual awakening. Find 21 past lives with this person.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be so fun. I love your spirit. It's coming. It's just like coming through the phone. Yeah, this is going to be so much fun. So you actually met this person, okay?
Yes.
And then?
Yes, and then he introduced me to Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton, and that was a game changer for me to read that book. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I have read it from cover to cover and have Destinies as well.
Daphne loves it. She's the specialist in that. Yeah, so.
Journey of Souls, as well as Dr. Brian Weiss's Many Lives, Many Masters, has been like the opening point for a lot of people to just go, oh, this is what was missing that I didn't even know I was looking for. This just makes so much sense. This is just really deep truth. So reading that book and then meeting him in person, and we realized right at the very first lunch we had was our first meeting, and we realized right at that 3-hour lunch that we had known each other in past lives, because for the 3 weeks leading up to us meeting, trying to sync schedules, it was like, where do I know you from? I know you.
Wow.
And we both were having that reaction. So we're playing the game of everywhere we'd ever lived or traveled, or
Isn't that something?
But in person, we figured it out, and we said, I know you from past lives. And for me to say that as someone who'd been just not spiritually awake, and somebody that had been pretty conservative and just living this really, really busy life where that wasn't on my radar, but I knew it was the deepest truth. So that's where the spiritual awakening came from. Match.com.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Hey, whatever works. It worked though, right? That's the thing. Wow.
I think
What a
the
story.
point is, our guides meet us wherever we're at. When we're ready for something and it's time, they're going to help us. That's like the podcast Buddha at the gas pump.
Yes.
It's just like so well named too, that it can just be the most mundane, everyday things that just, when the moment is there, it's there.
Because I am familiar with the Journey of Souls. Daphne's more familiar with like really reading it through and that, but I'm just actually familiar with it. But was that an actual influence in you, with say for like your hypnotherapy type stuff, or did that kind of influence you?
Because what happened with the combination of reading that book and learning about what past life regression was and the incredible healing that would come through it, I knew from the moment I read the book that I was meant to have a life between lives, not just the past life regression, which is the precursor to have the life between lives, but I just knew it from reading the book. And my former boyfriend who woke me up, he was already on the path he was getting ready to go for his second life between lives when we met, and he put that right in his dating profile. So that was, I think, what called me in. And he then found the first hypnotherapist that I went to and had my own first session. And he actually drove me to both that first past life regression and to that first life between lives, because it was back in the day when you had to go in person and going into downtown Seattle. It's like you don't want to be in. That's not a relaxing thing to do before a session, and you certainly shouldn't be driving in heavy traffic like that immediately after being in an altered state. So.
Right.
The therapist rightly said, you need a driver.
Gotcha.
And then it was back before Uber. So it was like, oh boy, how do I do this? I need someone to drive me. So, he just became instrumental in helping me get the first sessions. And then beautiful cycle, the wheel turning was I then became his past life regressionist in what became my first book, Regression Healing 1. It's actually the session I did for him. So, a couple years later, after him having taken me to my first sessions,
isn't that something?
I facilitated this session for him a couple years later once I'd become a hypnotherapist that became the first book.
Right.
Wow, that is
wow.
amazing. So what was your first experience like? So you said you had to go through it first, correct?
Yes, my first experience was it was 2011, and I went to that first session not knowing how to meditate, not having any spiritual practice, very stressed, very type A, and I didn't know if anything was going to happen. I just had to, the therapist and I had talked it through. I'd done all the intake forms. I'd, gone thoroughly through her website and done the reading that I could to prepare. But we just had to agree, hey, don't know what's going to happen, because I was certainly not an ideal candidate. And to my surprise, this session was incredible. In just 2 hours, we not only cleaned up various things that had happened earlier in this lifetime, and for me to let go of them, to understand them, to just be able to heal and release them. But we visited 2 past lives, and I actually had the good fortune to turn out to be an incredible therapeutic trance client. So, and I had no way of knowing that, and it just, the information I got was incredible. And in that 2 hours, and I was 50 at the time, I let go of a lifetime of anxiety. And to have that be resolved in 2 hours, I didn't know that was possible.
That's powerful.
So I was hooked right from the get-go because it was so helpful for me. And right at the end of that very first session, I told the therapist, okay, get out your book. I want to schedule my life between lives. And she's looking at me going, Wendy, wow, that's something people work up to. And usually they have a meditation practice, and usually they do many past life regressions. I said, I understand that and I respect that, but I'm giving myself a year, and I'm going to have to figure it out in that year and get ready to have the life between lives, because I know I'm meant to do that.
Yep.
So we did schedule it, and I had that 4-hour session, and it was incredible. When I transcribed the recording from it, I had 65 pages of information from my own higher self and my own guides that I'd never known.
Isn't that amazing?
To be able to learn how to tap into something like that, it's like, this changes my life. And I just started getting so much healthier, so much happier. Relationships were just healing right and left. I understood my purpose. It was a total game changer. And then the next summer, a year later, after the LBL, I had 2 sessions with the Dolores Cannon trained gal, and did quantum healing hypnotherapy. And in that second session with her, she said, do you know that you're not only speaking immediately fluently as your own higher self and as your guide, you're just switching back and forth and giving yourself all this amazing advice, but when you listen to your transcript, when you listen to your recording, what you're going to notice is you're also telling me what to do. Because my higher self or guides would say, do this for her, ask her this, change this up. And I was like coaching her. It's almost like I was doing the therapist part too. And she said, you've clearly done this many times before.
Okay.
And I was just astonished by that. But I knew she was right, and it felt really right. And then she introduced me to the first person that I would train with, and he'd been trained by Dolores Cannon also.
Okay.
Wow.
So it just kind of took off from there. And then later I trained with Dr. Brian Weiss, and then later I trained with one of Dr. Michael Newton's first students.
That is amazing. It's quite a resume, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, I just was really fortunate, because once things got started, and I'm a great example of, don't feel like things are coming too late in life, because I didn't start with any of this until I was, 49, 50 years old, and it's just always the right time. And I think it came up for me then because I was not only ready for it, but because my daughters were 12 and 14, and, they were doing really well, and they were starting to be, pretty independent at that age. I mean, sure, you're you're supervising, you're still raising your children, but they're also, doing their homework on their own for hours. And, so I was able to read and study and, do things kind of side by side with them when, in the evenings when I was home from work and they were, busy doing homework or doing activities.
I've got a question for you. You would be the perfect person to ask. What do you feel, or how do you feel, or is there a connection with the concept of parallel lives being the same thing as these past lives? I don't know if you've heard of that. I'm sure you have. But...
Absolutely. That's what my next book is about.
Would you mind sharing some with us?
Sure. Regression Healing 2, Joe and Marilyn. It's releasing June 24th, and it's about one of my own past/parallel lives. And this was a really big one to accept. It's taken me 8 years to write this book and be willing to share it publicly because, I just put it on the back burner many times because more pieces needed to resolve and I needed to work through things. But my belief is that our higher self has so much energy that we incarnate with a portion of it, and we choose where and when we're going to incarnate on Earth or in another dimension or on another planet. And we can choose, because we've got all this beautiful soul energy, we can choose to purposefully incarnate into a parallel life, so we can have multiple lives at the same time. So Joe and Marilyn is about my having lived a parallel life as Joe DiMaggio, because we're the same soul, and that took a lot for me to accept. It's like, do I really want to talk about this publicly? Because he was so well known and just really seen as such a hero, and just such a great legacy, and just so many baseball Hall of Famers, but not just that, the beautiful philanthropy work that he did, all the fundraising that he did for Children's Hospital, and I just really look up to him. And it's like, it just took a lot for me to, come out publicly with that, as I said. But we were both alive at the same time for 40 years. So that's a parallel life.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that does make sense. I love the way you explain that. Yes.
And you can take it another level if you realize that time is a human construct of how we've simplified it to past, present, future. That's simply a construct we're using. It's a very useful one. But if we're ready for the more accurate rendition, it's really that everything is quantum and it's all happening in the now, and we're living all our lives at the same time because it's all quantum. But that's pretty twisty, to take on, and a lot of people aren't ready for that concept. So therefore, past, present, future, and parallel lives, I think, is a good interim step, to understand that we can be living more than one life.
Yeah, it's almost like something you hear like in the sci-fi movies or something,
Right. I think The Matrix got it right in like a lot of ways. It was like pretty ahead of its time, but I think it was, pretty accurate with a lot of what was in there. A lot of the sci-fi and some of the things in the classic Star Trek from the 1960s that I grew up with, like how they would use the transporter to move people. And I mean, that's a, it's a form of time travel with your body. It's like, it's not astral travel where you're out of your body. It's like taking the molecules and speeding everything up and moving it along. And they've also talked about the little phones that they used for communication. I mean, those didn't exist in the 60s. Those didn't exist for another 30 years.
That's right.
And became the phone.
It'll get you thinking.
But it's like, and a lot of the makers of the original, phones like that talked about, oh yeah, I was influenced by Star Trek because I realized it could be possible because I saw it on there, when it was very futuristic.
So maybe all along, man has maybe even without even knowing it, I guess, in a sense, just really just tapping into that universal consciousness, and maybe in a sense,
Right.
and really bring it to that fruition in reality, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then
Yeah,
look where we're at now with
tap into that
technology.
inspiration and to, how do we raise our vibration and frequency, and how do we do better on this planet to just have clean water for all, and safety and food and shelter for all, and how do we end the wars, and how do we end the global warming, how do we help Earth cool herself off, how do we live with a lighter footprint.
Yeah, I think we know how, and to go with that questions or with those questions is, how do we get people to wake up and start realizing that, hey, we can do this. We just got to do it. I think the thing is just trying to wake people up. I don't know.
Right, to make some different decisions. I just moved into a 399 square foot tiny house, and if you told me 3 years ago I was going to do that, I would have said you're nuts.
Oh, that's a mansion. What are you talking about? That's perfect. It's home. That's the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So let me ask you, where did your near-death experience where does it kind of fall into place with
The
all of
timeline.
this that's going on?
Yes. So the near-death experience occurred in 1997, and I was 36 years old.
Okay.
And there were actually two within a week, and I was newly pregnant, and learning to communicate with angels, learning that I could hear the divine, learning that I was so loved and supported in a way I had never known, was a game changer. But the full awakening didn't come for another 13 years
Oh.
because I was just so danged busy, because I'm working full time, and new baby and a 2-year-old. Just the spiritual awakening, it was kind of low key after
Right.
the NDEs, but once you're split open, you're split open. Once your belief system is changed, it's changed.
Yeah.
But the real going forward with it would not happen until my daughters were 12 and 14, and I would meet the gentleman via match. So that's how that sequence of events went.
Would you mind maybe sharing some of the experience of the near-death experience?
Absolutely. So what the near-death experiences were in a nutshell was, I was newly pregnant. So I was 10 weeks pregnant. We were just really thrilled because I'd had 2 ectopic pregnancies, and we so wanted to have another child. We had an 18-month-old, and I was working at home alone, and something just did not feel right. And it moved into a sense of impending doom. There also had been prophetic dreams that I didn't know what to do with and didn't know how to interpret. And then from there, it went into me knowing that something was really, really wrong. And as I said, I'm home alone. I've got there's no car at home. And I ran into the bathroom thinking, I'm going to be sick. Something's really, really wrong. And then it immediately turned into, it felt like an organ burst. And I just had this searing pain in my abdomen, and I passed out. And I only came to because there was this insistent male voice that kept saying, Wendy, you've got to wake or you're going to go home. And I knew exactly what he meant. So when I woke up, and I was very disoriented because I was laying on my side on the bathroom floor, just in a fetal position because I was in so much pain. And my mind was just really blown. My belief system changed in that instance because the entire bathroom was lit up with the white light of home, because there were 4 or 5 huge angels all crowded into my bathroom. And one of them was talking to me, telling me to get to the phone and call for help, or I was going to die.
Wow.
And so it just went from there. And then the angels helped me get to the phone because I could not walk. And I called my husband, and he rushed me to the OB's office, and I was very fortunate because the OB's office was at the hospital. So I go through the OB office real quickly, and I get moved from there, and I get admitted directly into the hospital from the OB's office. And then I was in the hospital for about 3 days, and there were lots of things going on. And then about 3 days into it, we realized we do have to do surgery. There's just no way around it, because I'd been resisting surgery, and the surgeons didn't want to rush in either, and because I'm pregnant. But we had to do it because I was officially bleeding out. They could not transfuse me fast enough. They'd just been hanging bag after bag of blood for several days. And so once we make the decision that we're going to do surgery the next day, I'm alone in my hospital room and have dinner, and I'm just trying to relax and trying to just marshal my resources, and I'm trying to picture the best possible outcome the next day with that surgery first thing in the morning. And the minute I did that, I left my body and I went home. I went up to the light and had near-death experience number 2, and just had this incredible experience reuniting with my entire soul group at home, and the same angels were there. And the second time I hear that same male voice, I immediately recognize him. Once I'm home, I'm like, oh, well, that's Archangel Michael, of course. Yeah. And I didn't get a life review, and I think it's because we get in the NDE what we most need. And also, I think it somewhat depends on your age. I've noticed there seems to be a correlation of often older people will more get a life review, and younger people seem to get more like the preview of coming attractions.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
As they call it. Because I was 36, so what they did was they shared with me 3 things so that I could make the decision, was I going to return or not? And I just felt so honored because I got to make the decision, because a lot of people, I knew hardly anything about NDEs at the time, because again, this was so many years ago. This was 97.
Right.
And, there weren't all these wonderful podcasts and, Netflix documentaries. It wasn't so much a part of our pop culture at that time. So I knew next to nothing about them. But since then, I've heard so many people say, oh, I was shoved back into my body, or told it's not your time. And people seem to have some angst about that. Whereas for me, it was a very conscious decision, and I made the decision based on the 3 things they shared with me. I made the decision I was coming back for my children. And that was an easy decision to make. And then it played out from there. And over the next few years, everything that the angels told me came true. It would take years for it to all roll out, because some of it was, pretty profound things that, it wasn't like what's going to happen next week and the month after that. It was just, it rolled out over years. But, one by one, I would remember, oh, yeah, I did hear that in 1997. I was told that during the NDE. Wow. And I, from time to time, would hear from Archangel Michael, like I heard from him in a really compelling way the day after my daughter was born. So it was March of 98 by that time. And he came in and gave me a very distressing message. He told me that my soul contract with my husband was complete.
Wow.
And I was not excited to hear that.
I imagine not. Yeah. Wow.
I did verify with him, what are you saying to me? What do you mean by that? Are you telling me my marriage is over? I'm here holding a 1-day-old. And many unladylike words ensued from me. Not my finest moment, swearing my head off at an archangel. But I would come to peace with it over the next few years, because once I learned that we can discover what our important soul contracts are. If we're meant to know, we can learn how to meditate and just discover what those are. And I came to peace with it when I learned what my contract was with my former husband. But, no one wants to hear that with a newborn and a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So that was another big turning point. And then we divorced when our daughters were 6 and 8. So I held with that knowledge that was very painful, and did everything I could to, be a great wife and a great partner and a great mother. But it was very hard to do because I knew it was over. And that's very hard knowledge to live with. Mm-hmm. So that's how I went through about a third of my marriage, because we were married for 15 years, we were together for 18, and for the last 6 of it, I knew it was done. Mm-hmm. His belief system was not open enough for me to say, I have something really painful and shocking to share with you, and I'd like to know what you think. I had this conversation with Archangel Michael, and his response would have been, you can't talk to archangels, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. Would have been his response. So we divorced, as I said, when our daughters were 6 and 8, because I chose to wait until they were in school full time. And I just did it as kindly and graciously and gently as I could, because I knew it was going to be a really hard shock for not only our daughters, but for my husband. And we then moved into co-parenting our daughters, and I rebuilt life. I just focused on them for the next 6 years. So that's why it took me that long to, have any interest and, be wanting to meet someone new. And then when I did that, when they were 12 and 14 and went on Match for the first time, that's when everything started to really go into high gear. And I started to really become myself and just started to pursue everything that I could about energy healing and past life regression. And that's when all the retraining came up, because I was still working my full-time day job in healthcare business development. And so I thought this was all for, personal interest and personal enrichment, and it just was like, the most incredible, delightful passion and hobby ever. Hobby's not the right word, because it was passion is a better word. But that's, I was thinking it's for personal growth and enrichment. And then what happened was, once my daughters were both in college, at that point, I was laid off, and it was a very unwanted, shocking layoff, because here I am, single mother, no alimony, no child support, 2 daughters in college, and I'm helping them get through college, and their dad's not participating. So I'd never had higher bills in my life. So that is not the time I would have quit my job.
Right.
Wow. So you
No. Because I knew I was meant to do what I'm doing now. But I just was going to wait until the girls were out of college, because that's what made sense to me. So that was really, really tough and shocking and not fun to have it instead happen when the oldest was a senior in college, but preparing for vet school, which was going to be another 5 years. And the youngest was just really getting started on her engineering degree, and that ended up taking 5.5 years. So I helped my 2 daughters with 13 and a half years of college.
That's so commendable.
Yes.
But they so merited it, and certainly needed the help. So there I was, like, trying to start this fledgling business, going really, and I tried to find traditional employment, and I couldn't find it, and I knew that meant I was not supposed to, because I had every reason to be able to move back into a great job. I've had my MBA degree since I was 22. I'd been in Seattle for years. I had a network of literally thousands of people, and just interviewed really well, and the economy was good at the time in 2017. So, but I just was doing the traditional job search, and I hung my shingle immediately when I got laid off, and I came out publicly and created my website, and I'd published one book, but I was getting ready to publish the second. So I was like working both tandem and just talking with my guides every day, all day long. Okay, what am I meant to do? What's for my highest and holiest here? Do you want me moving back into traditional employment, or do you really want me moving into full-time offering spiritual services? Because if so, here's my budget, guys. Come look over my shoulder, because I'll show you the spreadsheet.
Right.
Hey, that's amazing.
And here's what it is, and here's what our expenses are as a family of 3 with 2 girls in college.
Yeah.
You know, and the big traditional home, and animals, and just all the expenses that were there from living in an expensive area. So there were many come to Jesus conversations.
Oh, yeah.
My budget, people.
I bet. I can only imagine.
That's what happened. And fast forward 7 years, and my oldest has been practicing for a year now as a vet, and she's got her first baby is due any day now. So she was actually due yesterday, and so we're just very excited, waiting for the next generation to be born. And my youngest,
this is the first grandchild?
Yes, it'll be my first grandchild. And
Congratulations. That's so
Thank
awesome.
you.
That's
Thank
got to be
you.
exciting.
Very, very exciting.
And any day now, you said?
Any day. And
Wow.
that's why I relocated. So I moved from the Seattle area out to Eastern Washington. So 5.5 hours east. I'm right on the Idaho border. And I moved out here because Tara and Nathan, my daughter and son-in-law, said, hey, here's where we're going to move to, and here's where Tara's going to find her job and start practicing. We're not coming back to the Seattle area because the cost of living there has just gone insane, as has the traffic. So the average price of a home in Seattle is now $1.4 million. And the average price of a home in Spokane, where we are in Eastern Washington, is $400,000. So I made the decision to not only move out here, but I made the decision to go tiny, to not only free up my finances, but to free up my energy, my creativity, and just be able to, clean the house in an hour and not be worrying about the big old yard and the big house, and just be able to enjoy life and have freedom, that I haven't had before.
That's amazing. That's what it's all about, really.
Exactly. So that's the nutshell. That's the nutshell version. That's the overview.
Wow. So what can you, Wendy, tell us about the Akashic Records?
The Akashic Records, I see, that's a fantastic question, and you've come to the right person, because guess what my job is at home when I'm not in a body? When I'm at home with the light, I worked in the Akashic Records for eons.
Do tell.
So,
Yes, please.
basically librarian, and what I would do is find people's book of life. Typically it's angels and guides coming in there that want the book of life for someone, because they want to have that at their fingertips to be able to help people, guide people, answer their questions. My belief is we all have a book of life, and the Akashic Records are our earth lives. It doesn't include the off-planet and other dimensions, but there is. So if you think of it as like your local neighborhood branch library, and then there's, I call it the place of all knowledge, which is the master library that's then got all the records. So it's got all those other interplanetary and interdimensional. But I would bring people that book. Occasionally there'd be people there with permission, because you have to have permission to access someone else's book of life. Because think of what a sacred privilege that is. But there might be a psychic medium, there might be an Akashic record reader on earth, there might be someone like that, it's appropriate for them to have access to it. And also, people don't get access to everything within the book typically, because think about it this way. If you're reading this gorgeous, amazing 800-page book, and that represents your life, and you're like up to page 289, well, what's going to happen if you suddenly read page 800? It's going to change everything in between. So, people aren't necessarily meant to know. So I always preface it, what is for their highest and holiest? What are they meant to know? So sometimes the decision is being made, okay, I'm going to tell you about this life or about that life. So sometimes you'd be narrating it and telling it, sharing it with the person that way. Or their guides or angels, or, whomever that highest being of light is helping them with the information, would be telling them. Because particularly for younger individuals, Michael Newton, he would not do sessions for people that were under 30. And he just felt that they wouldn't get enough quality information, or that you could be interfering with how their life was supposed to play out. Because there's that concept of a Saturn return, having our first Saturn return when we're 28 to 30.
Okay.
And so that's why, he just wouldn't do sessions with younger people. But times have changed. I occasionally do sessions for people in their 20s. More typically it's middle-aged or older, and I've occasionally done sessions for teenagers. Just someone's very mature, really has specific questions. So occasionally they will come to me too.
Right.
Yeah, because we all have questions.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. And I think for a lot of people, because I take them there during the session, I always take people there during the 3 sessions. It's typically the third of the 3 sessions that we do. But just to get to see that book of life, so many people, without even opening it, just to know that exists for them, and to see all the light coming off from it, to see how big it is, to see how old it is. A lot of people release anxiety just as a result of that, and we haven't read one word from it. But just to see the book, it gives them some healing and some comfort and some self-confidence.
So with all that being said and everything that you've experienced, what was your belief system like before any of this happened as compared to now?
My belief system before this all started occurring was I did believe in God. I was raised as a Christian. I would describe myself as having been a casual Christian as an adult. I mean, yes, I went to Sunday school when I was little, and my parents, my mother, actually, mother and grandmother, because my father and grandfather did not go to church, but my mother and grandmother did. And it was the social aspects too, and the community service aspects too. So I believed in God. I believed that Jesus was his son. I still believe that Yeshua ben Joseph, Jesus, is one of the most powerful healers that ever walked the earth. I do believe he was a historic figure as well as a biblical figure, and I see him now as an ascended master and a world teacher who's here helping so many, heal and raise our vibration. It has nothing to do with religion. It's just person to person. But he has such incredible energy that so many people can just receive him and sense him, because he just has that amazing, unique energy. I think he's really well suited for his role.
What have you, Wendy, as an individual, what have you learned from all of this?
What I've learned is we are eternal souls, and it's really all about love. And we choose where and when to incarnate, and what we want to work on, and what we want to experience. And when we can start to ask, why is this happening for me? rather than, why is this happening to me? We get out of that martyr or victim place and start to move into our power without abusing it, and just start to know who we are as a soul in this lifetime, and just start to be able to release that fear, that anxiety, that pain, that stuck energy that doesn't serve us, and just really, really open our hearts and live from our hearts in a beautiful way, and really live as our higher self, as our soul on a day-to-day basis. I used to think originally that the higher self, that was the best of us, and that's home in heaven, and oh my goodness, I can never be that now in a human body. And then when a spiritual teacher said to me, well, did you know you can call your higher self into your body every day and be that higher self now on earth? I was like, oh my goodness.
That's
Well,
right.
this is important to know.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that. I call my higher self in every day. And I just recently have started really calling my inner child in every morning and just telling her what a great day we're going to have, and also giving her choices. And I just tell her what we're going to do. And it's like, well, today I'm going to the dentist. And if that does not sound appealing to you, you're welcome to stay home. You're always safe. I always take care of you. You only have to do the fun stuff.
Oh, cool.
That is
And just,
amazing.
just take care of myself that way. And I just feel so much more peace, so much more love.
So you have mentioned soul contracts a couple of different times, and
Yes.
it's something that has piqued my interest in the past, and I'm still learning so much about them because there's so much to learn about them. But what information do you have on that? Is it like really detailed, like moment to moment throughout our life? Is it just like certain little things that are agreed to? What can you tell
Great
us about
question.
the agreements?
They can be more major or more minor. I see soul contracts as agreements we make with other souls before we incarnate, to help us learn certain things, experience certain things, and that's the purpose of them. But if we have any soul contracts that are not serving us in this lifetime, no one should be agreeing to be abused by someone else, to be a doormat for someone else, to be harmed by someone else. If that is the type of soul contract that is going on, I really question that.
Right.
Because we're all a spark of the divine, and we do not come here to be harmed and abused, etc. But because of self-worth issues, because of just different circumstances, we may find ourselves in those where we need to adjust our boundaries. And it's also appropriate to declare a soul contract complete. When done is done, there's a lot of importance and skill in being able to give closure, and again, in a loving, peaceful way, just declare that something is complete. I think in regarding marriages is the term now, which they didn't have back when I divorced, of conscious uncoupling, and with it being done with a lot of dignity and respect and kindness. And I think that's a great term.
And everything has a time and a reason. That agreement, like you said. And I've never really thought of it like that. That you have these different agreements with different souls, and it makes sense. And if the contract is up, if they serve the purpose, then move on.
Exactly.
I've never thought of that.
Just repeating it, and it's not productive, and it's not good for us. We know the truth, and just need to wrap it up to the best of our ability and let it go, because otherwise we're putting energy into yesterday's news, and we're really meant to be in the present moment, and we're meant to be growing and expanding and moving forward, and new things will come up once we let go of the old. So it's kind of like you need to clear out your print buffer And again, I say that with, the greatest of compassion. So I often am helping clients do that. There's a lot of clients that will come to me and say, I've been happily married for 20 years. Why can I not let go of XYZ relationship with a former romantic partner? Why does he still keep coming into my dreams? Or there might be, some actual contact, like a little bit of contact via email or Facebook, and it can be coming from the other person too. Why is he literally saying to me, I can't get over you? And so what I do is I just facilitate and bring the people's higher selves to the table and bring in their guides and say, what's appropriate at this point? What is the highest and holiest for the individual asking this question? And almost all the time, what they do is there's some conversation of thanking that person for what they brought to their life. And I mean, you can imagine, if you've never met that person, even though it might have become challenging or difficult, what would you have missed out on? What would you have not learned or experienced? And just, give thanks for that, and then just let it go. And Archangel Michael, he comes in and cuts the cord, because there's almost always a low vibration cord of attachment that's not serving either party. But we want to gently, appropriately give the other person notice before just going in and whacking off cords and not having given them notice, because that can really throw them off, because energetically they're like, what's happening? What's going on? And that almost always makes the person reach out, even though there may not have been contact for years. So we want to give appropriate notice. Let them say what they need to say, because often they need to say something. And then often, what I'm noticing Archangel Michael do recently, he's then, after he cuts the cords, when everyone's ready, he's handing the cord back to each person to just incorporate back into their heart, and they've like fully got their power back. And they're so much more loving and peaceful and happy, and the other person's got their power back too. And I think that's just such a lovely way to end that.
So I have a question. You do the past life regression, the life between lives, and on your website it has future life progression. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I would love to. So what future life progression is, that's a spiritual technique where we're doing an energy healing, and if it's appropriate for the person, we're able to go to either a future life, or we may go forward in this lifetime. And what we're doing is just setting up visioning of what would be the most positive for the person. So I have some people just naturally go there, because the prompt I give during the energy healing is go to the time and place with the most uplift and healing and information for your life today. Most people will go to a past life or scenes earlier in this lifetime because they've signed up for a quote past life regression. But some, because of that prompt being open-ended enough, they'll go 20 years in the future in this lifetime, or they'll go into a future incarnation. It's whatever is best for them, because sessions are architected by the individual's own higher self and guides. So, because they know, what's best for us during the session, and what's most efficient too. So they know what's most effective and what's most efficient, what the person most needs. Some people are signing up specifically to do a future life progression, and again, don't know where it's going to land. If it's 5 years in the future in this lifetime, or 40 years in the future in this lifetime, depending on their age, or if it's 3 lives in the future from now, or if it's the very next one. Because again, I want the higher self and guides to choose. So I don't tell people specifically where to go, just orient it to it being best for their life now. And it's a really powerful visioning, because a lot of times people are trying to do many things in this lifetime that they've been having trouble getting accomplished. And if it's very much a part of their life purpose or their overarching soul mission, the life purpose across all the lifetimes, then help is going to come in, and people just get more confidence, and they just see quicker, faster, better ways to accomplish things. So often it's people who have big missions to help humanity, or to help the planet, or to help the animals, or the environment, or whatever it might be. That's often what will come up in their future life. Other times it's more important, but more day to day. Like someone might be asking, am I really meant to retire to a lake house? And is my family really going to, gather there as a gathering spot? And it's just really, really important to them. So, we go forward to 15 years from now and just see what that might look like. And it just gives them more possibilities. Because once you can vision it, it is so much easier to make it happen.
Now, let me ask you this. Are you familiar? It sounds to me like a lot of this, it kind of reminds me of NLP. Have you ever crossed that area of...
I'm familiar with NLP. I know a little bit about it.
Okay, yeah. Because
Neuro-linguistic programming.
yeah. Because they use a lot of the hypnotherapy in that as well, and a lot of that good stuff as well. So now... I've got a question for you on this here, and then we'll go ahead and ask you a wrap-up question here. The sessions that you guys do, I remember you had mentioned earlier, at one time you had to be right there with the therapist or with the person, but isn't it true, or are we at times, and you'd be the person to ask, that you can actually have these sessions long distance, like other parts of the world?
Remote. Yes, exactly.
Okay, could you share that with us? Yeah.
Sure. Because all the healing, it's all in the quantum field.
Right.
So, but originally I was trained for face-to-face. I originally was a traveling hypnotherapist, and that was great. So that was what I did for the first couple of years. I was doing 2 sessions a month because I was still working full-time, and then on weekends, or very occasionally a weeknight, I would go to someone's home or to their place of business, or wherever they could have their session, and have it be a quiet place where they wouldn't be interrupted.
Yeah.
But what started happening was it was taking me longer and longer and longer after every session to get fully back in my body to be able to safely drive, because then I had to drive. And also, I did not want people driving the day of their session. And again, this was back before Uber and Lyft was so prevalent. And so I did that for a couple of years. And then the last session that I did in 2018 was for my former boyfriend, where it became the first book, Regression Healing 1. And I had to sit outside his house for like 2 hours.
Wow.
And said to my guides, wow, we really need to get me grounded back in my body. Why is this happening? What's going on? And they said, well, you're doing so much traveling up to the light, and you're doing so much work to lift the other person up there too, that's why it's taking you some time to come, fully back into your body. Wow. And, it wasn't safe to drive. So after the session I facilitated for him in late 2018, my guide said, after I sat there for like 2 hours, they said, okay, that's the last session you're going to do in person. Now you're going to start using Skype. And I'm sitting there in the car going, what the heck is Skype? I have no idea what they're saying. So I got home and I Googled it. Luckily I was able to figure out how to spell it. And I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. This looks like some sort of video conferencing. And I think the idea would be the person would be in their home and I'd be in my home, and we'd do it through a video conference call. So what I did was I went back to about a dozen people. I spent about a year retraining, and I went back to people I'd already done sessions for. And would you like to have a complimentary session via something called Skype? And I just need you to give me really specific feedback, what works, what didn't work, what you preferred, compare and contrast the two. And I learned how to do the sessions really, really well via Skype. And then I was so thrilled when Zoom came out because Zoom was so much more robust and it had the recording aspect already built in. So I switched over. So I was very fortunate because when COVID came, I didn't pause because I was already doing all sessions via Zoom, and that just really changed everything because once you know how to do a session in that manner, I have clients in probably 15 countries at this point, and you can just choose who you're vibrationally aligned with versus who's 3 blocks down the road.
That's right. I like the way that sounds.
Everything's energy already, so yeah.
Right. And I totally respect people. You just need to know what feels right for you. If you feel more comfortable and you only want to go in person, then absolutely. Then Google and find someone near you. Like you can Google for past life regressionist or hypnotherapist. You just, hypnotherapist, that can be smoking cessation or weight or stress. So it's, if you're wanting to do past life regression, you just need to watch how you Google for that, or you can Google for Brian Weiss, hypnotherapist, that sort of thing, and near me, and just find people that way if you want to do it in person. But I find more and more and more people are doing it, via Zoom, as I said. Very occasionally, I have someone who can't use Zoom. They might live very remote and they don't have solid internet. So very occasionally, I'll use a phone line. I'll use a teleconference line that's got a recording capability because if their internet might be dropping, we'll use the phone line instead. Or if it's just a lovely older client, it might be literally in their 80s and they just do not understand how to use a link to get on.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm going to email you a phone number and you're going to call this phone number at this date and time and put in this code. Those of us in business, it just takes us back 20 years of how we used to do conference calls, and you had the password and, you got everybody on the group conference call together.
Yeah, so that's really made a difference with the new technology age, that you can have this ability to be able to reach people everywhere. That's pretty amazing.
I find most people relax better at home.
Yeah.
It's certainly more convenient than having to get a ride somewhere, and what time does the person pick you up, or the expense of getting a ride somewhere or whatever. So it's certainly got some advantages to it. There's a few people where home is just too hectic. Home's like 3 preschoolers and 5 dogs, and they burst out laughing when I say, "When is your quiet 2.5-hour time?" And they're like, "Never." So often what they'll do is just choose a time when spouse or mom or sister or somebody's going to take the kids and the dogs. Or occasionally they'll do the session from their car because Zoom works great on smartphones.
Yeah.
And it's like you just go park somewhere, preferably somewhere lovely, by trees, by water, by gardens, because I find that just
good energy places. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, definitely.
So occasionally I have people doing the session from their car because home is too busy.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's beautiful that you've got the technique to be able to help so many people too. It kind of keeps you being from so restricted or limited in a sense as well. So you get to help a whole lot more people really as well from that perspective.
Exactly. And it's fun for me. I so appreciate having people teach me the cultural differences, and just because I want to be really respectful of their belief system. So I just have them tell me, what is your belief system? When we, travel up to the light, to home, do you want me to say heaven? Do you want me to say the universe? Do you want me to say God? What's the right terms to use or not use for you? Because this is certainly not about proselytizing and trying to push my belief system onto anyone else. Is the opposite. It's just I want people to teach me what's comfortable for them, and then just work to have the sessions be in that lane for them.
Yes, and it seemed like they would be a lot more comfortable that way as well too.
exactly. That's the idea.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Miss Wendy, what advice could you give to the listeners as a final? We kind of ask our guests this question. Is there any advice that you can maybe leave listeners that, who are on their spiritual journey? Any kind of last minute advice that you maybe could share with them?
Absolutely. Just enjoy your life to the best of your ability and don't be putting off the good things. Just do them now and just, find that daily spiritual practice and just really enjoy what you're meant to be enjoying on this journey. And I do find, sense of humor is just a great coping mechanism. And when things are challenging, know that it's going to get better. And when things are going well, enjoy the heck out of it. Just really be in that present moment as much as you can.
So good.
Because that anxiety, that depression, that is from trying to live up to other people's expectations, which you can never do. Right. So just try and let go of them and let go of what's in the past, and don't be, projecting all these worries into the future, because we're all really powerful creators, but we don't realize we can be mistakenly creating what we don't want, by worrying about XYZ. So just enjoy now, and know that you're so loved, and you've got so much support, and just your guides, your angels, just so want to connect with you. So know that you deserve it and can absolutely connect with them and get that unconditional love and wisdom and support.
Wow, that is
thank you.
so
Wow,
beautifully
beautiful.
said. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Thank you. That was beautiful. Now, so how can someone get in touch with you, or maybe someone contact you for either more information about your services or your? We also maybe, if you don't mind, we'll do a plug for your book here real quick too before we wrap up. But that you're getting ready to release. The like, if someone wanted to contact you, you have like a website you may want to plug, or
yes,
anything?
My website is my full name, WendyRoseWilliams.com, and you're so welcome to go there and to request a complimentary group energy healing date with me. It's something that I offer on an ongoing basis, and I purposefully do them all different days of the weeks and different times, trying to accommodate as many time zones as possible. And we do a beautiful energy clearing and grounding and healing with the angels, and then go through and I let people know what other services I have available to them. So, and it's a 45-minute group session together. So those are on an ongoing basis, as I said, and you'll find other events that I'm offering, and also find out how to work with me one-on-one.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yes, so that's WendyRoseWilliams.com.
Exactly.
.com is beautiful. Daphne, any final words for this beautiful soul?
Just thank you so much for sharing this conversation with us.
Yes, thank you so much, Wendy. We really, truly appreciate you, and we send you our love and our peace.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.
And there you have it, the one and only Miss Wendy Rose Williams. Such a beautiful soul, such a beautiful interview, knowledge, experiences, and you know what, I know we're just barely scratching the surface.
Yes,
we're just scratching the surface with her and her knowledge and stories and everything. So maybe, just maybe, we might can get her back if. Hopefully we can maybe talk
go a little
through
deeper on some different subjects with her. Yes, most
she's
definitely.
just amazing. Yeah. So thank you so much. For taking your time and sharing your information, Wendy, with the actual listeners and things like that. And again, don't forget to go to her website and check out her information. She is a wonderful soul. And don't forget to be looking out for her new book coming out as well. And go ahead and get the other ones as well and start taking that in. And and these are actual from life experiences too. This is not just something made up.
Yes.
So she writes from experience. So you can learn so much from that, so.
Yeah, her first book, Regression Healing 1, is The Huntsman, the Lord High Mayor, and the World War II Soldier. The second book is The Flow 1, Plymouth Plantation.
Awesome.
And both of these books are on experiences from people's past lives, her past lives. So, and then her upcoming book, going to be released June 24th, is Joe and Marilyn.
Yeah.
So that one is actually Regression Healing to Joe and Marilyn. So,
Okay.
yeah, so looking forward. I'm going to actually order some of these books, Ms. Wendy, just to hear more of your experience, because she's only scratching the surface.
I know.
With the time that we shared. So I would love to hear more, learn more about the past lives and everything, because that's something that a lot of us do not necessarily believe in. I do, but it's something that I've come to appreciate about the near-death experience, and learning the depth that it can go.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the beauty of it. There's so much to learn, and the challenge we have is just we've got limited time, on these podcasts, that we can actually, share these stories with people, and we want to be respectful with their time as well. But I bet if you sat down with someone like Wendy, she can probably have enough knowledge to fill up several episodes, because she's got so much experience. That's the beauty of it. So we can learn so much and glean so much from these interviews, and so that's why I love the interview that we had with Wendy. I learned so much. And like I said, thank you so much,
Yes,
Wendy.
thank you so much, Miss Wendy. We love you so much and appreciate your time.
Yeah, you're awesome, and looking forward to the new release, and anything we can do to help you, and if we can help share anything we can do on this end, we're here for you. So we love you. We thank you so much. We love you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening to the NDE World Podcast. Don't forget to go to the website at nde.world for more information, and we'll see you guys over there. We love you all. May peace be with you all. Until next time.
Y'all let your light shine.
Hello, you beautiful souls. Don't forget to visit the website, nde.world. That is
NDE.world.